Alright, so I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough on how to do a glass material in Blender. First of all, I'm going to show you how to do the glass shader if that's all you need, and then I'm going to show you how to make this cool 3D extruded Blender logo thing. So that's just going to play with some, hopefully, caustics and the materials and just the entire setup and everything. So to start, I'm using Blender version 2.91. It should work on anything after the big UI revamp of 2.8. I don't see why it wouldn't work on 3.0 because I've used the beta for that and it's not very different. But yeah, just to set this scene up, I'm going to quickly move this cube up. I press Shift Tab to turn this to incremental snapping, I have like a grid to snap to. And then I'm going to press Shift A to add a plane just for the cube to rest on. And then I'm going to go into edit mode, so press Tab, S to scale, and then I'm going to scale this up by 10. And I'm going to press 0 on the numpad to check where the camera is pointing. And I can select the camera border here, press R, press X twice to rotate it on the local axis, and then I'm just going to turn it there so the camera is focused on the cube. And also, we have to switch to rendered mode, and you can see it's in Eevee right now. And for the glass to actually look good, for the reflections to work properly, we're going to have to switch this to Cycles. So now we're in Cycles. Just make sure you have your GPU selected if you do have one. And then in the Edit Preferences, this menu right here, make sure that if you have a NVIDIA RTX card, like an RTX 2070 in my case, that you have optics selected, because that's going to be your fastest render engine. If you have just a regular NVIDIA card, you can use CUDA, and I don't know what you do for AMD, probably like OpenCL or none or something like that. But yeah, so let's press 0 on the numpad, everything looks good. And let's hop on over to the shading tab. You can see that things look a little bit different, but that's because I have a custom startup file set up. So it's the same interface, it's just arranged differently in a way that I find more convenient. So I'm just going to select the cube again, hit 0 on the number pad to focus on the camera view, and I changed it to rendered mode again so we can see what we're doing in real time. So let's go into the node editor over here on the left. I'm going to delete the principal BSDF node because we're not going to be using that. We're going to need a transparent node and a glass node, and we're going to be mixing those two together using a mix shader node. So let's hit Shift A on the keyboard to add a new node, and you can look for it in one of these menus, but I usually just search. So transparent, then glass, and shift those back a bit and add a mix shader. There we go. So the output of the mix shader goes into surface, and then transparent BSDF goes into one of them, and glass BSDF goes into the other one. So if you don't use the transparent BSDF node and you just use the glass, it's not going to be transparent. Like, you won't be able to see through it, but it'll still kind of look like glass. But it definitely looks better with the transparent. So if all you needed was the glass shader, this is pretty much all you need. I can add like a bevel or something to this by tabbing into edit mode and then pressing Control B. I'll just round off the corners. So yeah, you can do that, and pretty easily you have a good looking glass material. But if you want to change the reflectivity of the glass, like how rough it is, or how foggy or reflective it is, if you want to change the reflectivity of the glass, so how foggy or reflective it is, you'd use this roughness slider here. So if you put that to full, you can see that it's very foggy and not reflective anymore. And that can actually be a little bit more apparent if I use an HDRI. So I'm just going to hop back to the Home tab. Actually, no, we don't need to do that. So let's go to Shading, select Worlds. So now we can adjust the world material. And I'm going to press Shift A, search Environment Texture, connect that to the background, and then I'm going to open an HDRI. I have all of mine stored in a convenient folder, so we don't have to go looking for it. There we go. I can go to thumbnail view, and we'll use this one. There. So again, go back to Object, turn up the roughness, and it's foggy. Turn down the roughness, and it's not foggy. So yeah. Just another quick tech tip before we move on to making the 3D extruded Blender logo. If you, in the world materials thing over here, in the world node editor thing, if you add a mix shader over here, let's say we wanted to hide this background, the HDRI, we can select the background node, press Shift D to duplicate it, and connect it to the other mix shader node, and then add a light path node. And then if we take the is camera ray output of the light path and connect it to the mix shader, we can actually hide the HDRI and use this second background node to be whatever we want for the background. So you can see that I've changed it to white, or I can change it to completely black, and the HDRI is still affecting all the objects. So we're just going to leave this as white. And the way that this works is that basically the render engine is checking if this is a camera ray, it's going to show one of these outputs rather than the other output or something like that. You know, it's just a Boolean pretty much. So let's go back to the camera view over here. Just going to move the cube off to the side because we're not going to be using it. Scale this up by 5 again. And let's go to File, Import, Scalable Vector Graphics. I'm going to go to my Downloads folder, and I found a Blender logo with no text. I just searched it up on Google and went to Wikimedia Commons. It's pretty much where Wikipedia stores all their files and stuff. And you can just right-click this, Save As, and it's an SVG, which is Scalable Vector Graphics. So yeah, you can import it as an object in Blender. And it is there, it's just really small, so if I select these curves over here in this new collection that got created when I imported that, I can press period on the number pad, and you can see it zoomed into the object, and the cube looks absolutely gigantic compared to it. So let's go back to the camera view, and I'm going to go tab into edit mode, and then press S to scale, and I'm going to scale up by maybe 100. 100's good, there we go. Going to press Shift Tab again, and then to get out of the snapping mode, move it slightly above the ground, and I believe I also want to delete one of these curves, this one right here, because we want it to be transparent, so that we only have this outer part right here and this inner part right here. So we can actually do this in solid view, just so that it's a little bit quicker and less visually disturbing because of the ray tracing going on. So first of all, I'm just going to convert both of these to a mesh. We could extrude it as a curve like this, but it's going to create a bunch of garbage and stuff that we won't be able to clean up otherwise. So I'm going to go to the object drop down over here and convert to a mesh, and then I'm going to do the same for the outer part of the Blender logo. Convert to mesh. And if we tab into edit mode, you can see it's got a bunch of lines over here. And that's not going to work when we want to bevel this and make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to press C on the keyboard, and then this opens up like a selection kind of thing. And I'm going to press 2 on the number pad, before doing that actually, 2 on the number pad, then C. And that's going to allow us to select all these lines, all these edges that we don't want. And you can just press Escape to get out of this selection mode here. And you can also press the middle mouse button to deselect things. So I'm just going to turn this entire thing into an n-gon, meaning that it's not something that's made up of individual triangles, it's just one big face. So I'm going to do delete edges. I'm going to delete this edge right here. And actually these two things aren't merged, are they? I'm just going to merge these by pressing merge at center. There we go. That should be better. So now I select everything by pressing A and F to fill the face. So now you can see that it's just one face rather than having all those messy edges everywhere. And we're going to do the same thing for this Blender logo as well. So I'm going to select everything. I'm using the scroll wheel to change the size of my selection area. Make sure you're in edge select mode. You can change it up here in the top left, or you can press 1, 2, or 3 on the keyboard. So I'm going to select all this. And just make sure that I didn't select any stray edges on the outside. And sometimes it won't select really fine lines that are close together. So if you zoom out and you want to actually be able to get those without zooming in, you can press Alt-Z on the keyboard, or you can just go to X-ray mode over here, toggle X-ray, and that'll select absolutely everything. So you can see there were kind of some stragglers over there before I did that. So I'll just run over everything again to make sure that I have it all. And down here as well. delete edges. I'm just going to delete that. Yeah, no, it's too complex. I'll just delete the whole thing and then connect these two by pressing F. Merge those as well. And then I just have to get rid of these. There we go. So what's going on here? Okay. So we can't turn this all into a face because if you select everything and press F, it's going to fill the middle part as well. So let's just select one of these over here, go to this part of the circle, and then shift select over here. And then I'm control clicking to select entire lines of things. And then I'm going to press F, then we're just going to fill one part of it. So we'll do that again. Shift select, go around to this side, over here, F again, and now I can just select the remaining vertices over here. And press F. There we go. So now we have our Blender logo. We can go back into edit mode, select everything, press 3 to go to face mode, face select mode, and then we can press E to extrude it. So let's probably go around up to here. And then let's do the same thing for the circle part in the middle. We can exit X-ray mode now, by the way, so I'm going to press Alt-Z to do that. Tab into edit mode, and if we go up here to the snapping menu, let's select face and press Shift-Tab to go into snapping mode. And that way we can actually, when we extrude this by pressing E, we can snap to whatever height of the face that we have selected over here, that we're hovering over. So I'm going to snap to the Blender logo over here, press Tab again and exit edit mode. And there's our extruded Blender logo. So to make this look a little bit better, we're going to enter X-ray mode again, and we're in face select mode. So let's select these two little dots up here, which is the top and bottom face. And then we're going to press Control B to bevel it, and that's going to round off the edges, which looks a little bit nicer. So we're just going to set this to something like 0.5, and then the amount of segments to about 5. And then press enter. Then tab out. And you can see that it's a little rough because we're still in flat shaded mode, but if we press right click it and then shade smooth, it'll look good. So let's do that. Let's do the same for this. I'm just going to select this without going to wireframe mode. Actually, we do have to. So there we go. Top, bottom, and that's all of them. So let's do that again. Control B, and just drop it wherever. Actually, that's not looking too good. So I'm just going to select everything, then recalculate normals, and see if that makes it perform a bit better. No, so there's still something going on here. So let's deselect these, because we actually don't need to bevel those lines there. There's still something going on with the geometry over here. You can see it's where all these vertices are really close together. So I'm just going to enter X-ray mode, then merge all these by pressing M, then A, so it merges at the center. This is one of the only disadvantages of importing SVGs into Blender for use in 3D extrusions, because it doesn't process all the geometry properly sometimes. As you can see, we have really, really big, messy gaps over here in some places. And when we try to bevel this part at the very corner of the Blender logo right here, it's probably going to create some impossible geometry where it's intersecting on itself. But we can't really avoid that, and if I felt like it, we could definitely clean that up, but I'm not going to bother. So instead of selecting the faces, let's just do the Alt select thing again. So I'm going to press 2 to go into edge mode, edge select mode, and then I'm going to press Alt and then click on the edge, and Shift Alt to select the rest of it. And we'll just do that all the way around. There. We'll do the same thing in X-ray mode as well on the bottom there. And there we go. I think that's all of it. Alright, so, oh god, I just missed something over here. It's working well, except in the place that I missed, so let's just correct that quickly. There we go. quicker to just deselect these lines. One, two. Oh crap! I'm selecting extraneous lines all over the place. There we go. Bevel, Control B, and that worked. So let's set this to 0.5. The segments are already set to 5 because that's what we had the last time. And we'll smooth shade that. And this is just right on the surface, I believe, so it's not going to clip with the bottom. Yeah, let's go back to camera view, and then move this like over here. Move that over there. And go back to rendered mode. And now we can see that we have a nice 3D Blender logo. And it has nice bevels and everything, so it looks pretty decent. But we can make it look better. So let's actually just rotate this on its side. So I'm going to go back to solid view, and then turn off face snapping, and then we can do RX minus 90, or RX 90, because that's going to rotate at 90 degrees. Rotate this on the local axis again, G, Z twice to move it backwards, and then move it like this. There we go. So if we go back to rendered mode, we can now configure the materials for this. So let's click on the outer part of the Blender logo, and go to diffuse color and copy this hex value, because that's just going to allow us to copy the color. And then we're going to go to our material over here, which is the glass, and you can see that now it's glass, but we're going to duplicate this by pressing the little page icon and change it to orange glass. And then if we put down these little drop downs over here, you can see it's the same drop downs that we had in the shading tab over here. It's just a little bit more compact and you can't do as much with it. So we're going to select the color value for the glass shader and then paste it. And there. Paste it on here in the transparent thing. It's a little bit too intense, so we can desaturate it, bring it closer to white, and then that's kind of a better orange there. So now you can see this is pretty much a glass material. I'm going to move it up slightly just so it's not clipping in the ground. And we'll do the same thing with the blue material as well. So I'm going to grab the hex value, go to orange glass, duplicate it, change it to blue glass, and then paste this value. I'm going to make it brighter because that's a little bit too dark. And copy this hex value, paste it into the top one, and I guess we can desaturate that as well, so it's pretty much the same. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. We can actually change the material for the ground, just makes this look a little bit better. Let's see, we want more reflective, increase the specular. Okay, well, we're gonna turn off the HDRI, so I'm gonna change this to I'm going to change this. Okay. Let's go back to the shading tab. We're in the world material, and I'm just going to do this. Set the strength to 0, so now it's black. So now you can really see everything. We're just going to configure the lights quickly, so I'm going to go to Eevee to do that, and then I'm going to change it to Scene Lights and Scene World so we can actually see what's going on. And this is what I was saying. The reflections don't work properly in Eevee because you'd need to set up like reflection cube maps and light probes and things for that to work. But in Cycles, it automatically just reflects off of everything because it's using physically based rendering. So that's just a lot easier and quicker. I'm going to change the light to an area and then change it to a square and make the square bigger so that now you can see that it's kind of reflecting off the surface there. So it's just a bit more diffused and it looks kind of nicer. So I'm just going to rotate this and then Shift D to duplicate. Rotate it again, and then rotate it again, and move. There we go. So now we have 3 lights. 2 of them I want to be slightly warmer, so I'm going to go to the hue, or actually the saturation over here, bump that up a bit, and you can see it's a little bit red, and I want it more on the yellow side, so I'm going to move up this hue slider, make it more yellowish like the sun, copy the hex value to one of the other lights, paste, And then on this one, I'm going to paste that hex value as well, but I'm going to go back to the HSV thing and shift the hue slider over to a more bluish color. So it's just kind of better-ish lighting. And let's go back to render view, and you can see that it's looking pretty good, but we can probably do more if we fixed the lighting a bit, made it more dramatic, I don't know. But yeah, we can extrude this part upwards maybe so there's more reflections, and scale it down. Go back to snapping mode. Yeah, I don't know, there's a lot you can do with this. But that's pretty much the basic idea of how to make the 3D extruded Blender logo, and as well as the glass material. Let's see. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Anyways, yeah, I hope this helped, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching.